there's over 1,000 names in it. I whip it out. I show it to them. They already know that they're giving me names. I have people compiling lists during my appointments, like in the middle of names and uses. They're like, oh, she's another good person for you to see. And that way, at the end of the appointment, I have so many leads, I don't even know what to do. I'm like, oh, geez, I know I've been here for like 3 hours, Mrs. Jones, but you got to help me out. So if you were me working towards a scholarship, who would you see first? And that way, that's me saying in a very not tacky way who's rich, because I can't just say, who should I go to? I only started this after the FSM conference that was just in May. So, again, things that I've only been implementing recently. I never used to qualify my customers, and people were like, Michelle Keenan said to me all the time, she's like, Aviva, you have so many people, qualify them. You're just going to anybody. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I'm just going to anybody. So I just started getting better at the qualifying them, but I do talk about the recommendations on that company page. Then I go straight through the products, which everyone knows all you have to do is cut rope and smile, and Cutco sells itself. And then you just have to close on them. The bigger you close on them, the bigger the order is going to be, even if they drop down. You close on a Cutco kitchen, even if you drop down, you'll still sell an ultimate. I don't sell Cutco kitchens every day, but if I close on a higher order, when I get the first objection, if I'm closing on the homemaker, the first objection, I'll handle those objections a couple of times, and then I'm dropping down to a galley. So I'm going from $9.45 to $6.86 because I never offer it without the table knives. I mean, the few people who bought them from me without table knives really were not happy. Sometimes if, like I see on the appointment, they're not so thrilled with the table knife, which most people really are, I'll even tell them to upgrade to a deluxe steak knife. Those are 12 trimmers. Love it. I sold my first set of 12 trimmers last week. It was great. They got the table knives. They're like, yeah, they're not manly knives. I'm like, oh, I've got the perfect thing for you. Send those back. We'll get you some better ones. And they're like, oh, really? We can get these? I'm like, yeah, they're more expensive, but they're worth it because, and I go through all the reasons. One of my favorite lines during my appointment as well. I'll use this line throughout names and uses. I'll use it throughout the construction of the knife. The thermoresin is more expensive, but it's worth it because it lasts forever. It won't chip, melt, crack. I go through all the reasons, and I keep using that line. I'm putting in their heads that every piece of Cutco is still expensive. When I finish talking about which, by the way, I don't cut the penny on the appointment, so I actually have never been able to cut a penny. I'm too weak. I don't know what it is. I can't cut a penny. Everyone wants to know how I sell super shears without cutting a penny, but I build up those super shears. They think that these shears cost $200, $300, $400. So let's say it's on a service call and they don't have super shears, and they find out it's $86. They're like, oh my gosh, it's cheap, and they're just like really excited. So it's more expensive, but it's worth it because blah, blah, blah. Then you guys all have to get conviction in sets. Now, I mentioned I did not sell my first Ultimate set until after I was an FSM. So, I just did not have any product conviction. I wanted to sell it because who doesn't want to sell an Ultimate? It's like, I want to sell an Ultimate $19.99 CPO, and no, of course we want to sell that. I had no conviction in it. I didn't even have conviction in a homemaker, which is why I was at $2,700 in career sales without ever selling a homemaker, without actually ever selling a set. My first set was a Studio Plus 4 to my next door neighbor who already owned a galley from someone from 6 years ago. So, that set, I didn't sell it. She bought it. She called me up. She goes, I want a set for dairy. I'm like, oh, sure, no problem. And, I did a demo. I'm like, I sold a set. I didn't sell a set. She wanted a set. After that, I sold my first homemaker because I'm like, hey, people really buy sets. I saw her galley sitting there. She's like, oh, I always use it. I love it. I'm like, oh, people use it. Now, I don't cook. The first thing I would recommend for you guys, start cooking. If you don't cook, start eating with Cutco. All you have is your sample kit, which if you're an FSM, I don't know how you're doing it with just a sample kit. I just upped to my second up. I don't think that's the word, sorry. I just went up from just a wheelie suitcase, like the size for an airport, to that with a duffel bag and another bag. I bring every piece of Cutco except for the golf knife, because I don't really know what that's for, so I don't really sell many of those, and pots. So I have to start bringing pots with me. Pots are the only thing right now. I've sold a whole bunch of cookware. I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how because I don't know the first thing about the cookware, but I tell them it's great. I tell them people who have it love it because I met people who have it. But until I start cooking with the cookware, which I have to start actually this week because I want to sell so much cookware this summer, it just helps every single person who already has Cutco. Let's say you go to someone who has a homemaker or an Ultimate, you sell them on cookware, there's more CPO in your pocket. They already love Cutco, they know Cutco, and of course they're willing to try it out. So start using every single product. it wasn't until I got my product conviction in the Ultimate that I was actually able to start selling Ultimates. So I believed that it was still worth the $2,000, which is only with shipping and tax $441 a month. So on the 5-pay, which you need to sell it all your customers on 5-pay payment plans. I learned this from Aaron Ludin. He says, Aviva, if you go to someone who's willing to pay $1,000 for this month, that means that people get paid monthly. They don't get paid weekly. So that means that if they have $1,000 to spend on it now, that means they're going to have $1,000 next month, month after. So instead of selling them $1,000, whatever they're willing to pay for 1 month, you should multiply that by 5, and that should be your minimum line 1. Because whatever they're willing to pay in 1 month, they'll be willing to pay in 5 months. He told me this last week, $2,000 average order this past week. So it really worked. I'm like, oh, Mrs. Jones is willing to pay that in full? Okay, great. Let's add some more things onto her order. And I apologize for speaking so fast, but I have so much I want to cover. So you guys can all definitely give me a call if you have any questions if I said something too fast. So I have conviction in the sets. The sets are the best deal. The best deal Cutco has to offer. That's how I always introduce the Cutco kitchen. Mrs. Jones, this is the best deal Cutco has to offer. For one reason and one reason only. You actually get everything. You get everything in one stop. You get your pots, you get your knives, you get your flatware, and you also get the bonus items. I'm not big on bonus points, so I don't give away all 6 things at the bottom. The bottom of the Cutco kitchen offers something like 1,000 in CPO that you end up losing. So it's the kitchen tool, the garlic press, the barbecue tool, the bacon serve set, the 6-piece stainless steel accessory set, and the entertainer pack. So at this point, they've seen everything, and I tell them that they can choose any 2 things. Most people fall in love with the kitchen tools and either the accessory set for the flatware or the entertainer pack because they really love those gadgets. And I don't let them get all 6 because I don't want to lose those bonus points. If it's going to make or break that Cutco kitchen, I'll up them to a 3rd one. So the last thing with the conviction is I'm sorry about that. Upselling. You guys should all write down upselling. Upselling never stops. From the time you walk into their house until the time you walk out their door. I have sold so many poly prep boards just because I simply don't put it in my suitcase. It fits in my suitcase. I use a full-size suitcase, and it fits in that suitcase, but I always make sure I'm holding it because let's say I forget to mention it in the demo, because sometimes that happens. I talk about so many things on my appointments, I just sometimes forget about stuff. So I had one demo where I forgot to show them the deluxe carving set. I really like the deluxe carving set. I don't even have one to show them, but I love showing it in my blue book because it's just such a pretty box. I have the deluxe slicer that I actually won in a contest, and I show them that one. People love that for a fancy bread knife. So I really like that, but sometimes I just forget to show it. The poly prep board, a big thing. Let's say you add another $21 onto every single appointment. Let's say you just do 50 appointments in, I don't know, the next 2 months or 3 months. 50 times 21. That's an extra $1,000. $10.50. It's $5 less than a homemaker plus super shares. So you guys want to add things on constantly. At the end of every appointment, so Mrs. Jones, what else would you like to add onto your order? And that's just a great question to get in the habit of asking because I had my biggest order ever, $6,300. I finished with it, and at the end of the order, we actually added on another homemaker because I was like, hey, Mrs. Jones, Passover is coming up. You have Cutco for years. It was someone who already owns Cutco. You have Cutco for years. She bought a Cutco kitchen for her daughter who had just gotten married, and I was like, it's Passover. So instead of, I pointed to her Ultimate, I'm like, instead of like the big bulky block, because she had the Ultimate, she loves it, but Passover is just once a week, and it would be a pain for her to take another Ultimate in and out. But this, I closed her on just the homemaker because I knew it was a done deal. I knew had I told her first for an Ultimate, I may not have gotten that homemaker. But I said, instead of that one, how about this one? And I pull out my block from my suitcase. She's like, oh, that's great.